Let us review the concepts of field lines which you have already learned and know. Electric field lines are convenient graphical representation only of the electric field in space. The field lines for positive and negative charges are as shown in figure. This is for positive charge, this is for negative charge. Notice that the direction of field lines is radially inward for negative charges, radially outward for positive charges. This is pure convention. For a pair of equal and opposite charges, which is called as electric dipole, field lines are like this. They are not radial, they are curving from positive to negative. Now let us know how to draw field lines. Since field lines are convenient tool only to visualize, they won't really exist in physical space. Therefore, how to draw, we should have a guidelines. First one, the direction of the electric field vector E at any point is tangent to the field lines. See, electric field is in this direction. You cannot have field lines like this. At any point, electric field must be in tangent direction. Second property of the field lines is how to draw, how many field lines we have to draw. That is told here. Wherever the field is stronger, then you should draw more number of field lines and passing through the surface perpendicular to the line. We will draw in such a way that the strength of the electric field must be proportional to the number of lines passing through unit area. Next, the field lines must begin on positive charges or at infinity and then terminate at negative charges or at infinity. The number of lines that originate from a positive charge or terminating on a negative charge must be proportional to the magnitude of the charge. If 1 coulomb charge should have double the number of lines compared to half coulomb. No two field lines can cross each other. No two field lines can cross each other, because if they do so, then at this point of intersection you will have two tangents. That means two electric field at same point. That's impossible. These are materials I have taken from MIT open course source. Now let us consider the concept of electric flux. Here, as is shown in this figure, we have electric field lines and you have to hold a unit surface area perpendicular to these field lines. Then number of field lines passing through that surface represents flux, electric flux through that surface. Qualitative definition for flux through the surface is number of field lines passing through the surface. But exactly we can define it by mathematical formulation. In mathematical formulation, electrical flux through a surface S is defined as the surface integral of dot product of electric field with perpendicular vector E dot ds. Phi is equal to E dot d. Now let us learn Gauss law, which is the fundamental law of electrostatics in its integral form. It states the total flux of the electric field over any closed surface is equal to 1 by epsilon naught times the net charge Q enclosed by the surface. In its mathematical form, it tells surface integral of the uh, electric field is equal to 1 by epsilon naught charge enclosed by the closed surface. That closed surface can be any surface of this type, surface of an ellipsoid or surface of the sphere, or it may be a pyramid like this. Let us prove Gauss law. Proof of the Gauss law involves three steps. First one, we have to prove or calculate the flux due to a single charge inside a closed surface. Second step involves when many charges are inside, what is the flux. Third step, since we are telling enclosed only, we have to prove that outside charges do not contribute to net flux. Required concepts are mathematical concept of solid angle and the fact that total solid angle subtended by a closed surface at a point inside a surface is 4 pi, and our friend Coulomb's law. Now let us prove the step 1 of the Gauss law, that is only one charge is present inside the closed surface, then also total outflux is equal to charge divided by epsilon naught. This we have to show by explicit calculation. Let me explain the diagram. We have shown a closed surface here, and that closed surface have a small elemental area shown here in red, whose area is ds. Let us consider a vector perpendicular to it, proportional to that area, and that vector is shown in blue here, that is ds vector. Since only one charge is present, at this point where the ds is present, electric field must be radially outward, and it is shown in green here. That electric field makes an angle theta with respect to that ds vector. Now let us calculate electric field at this point by Coulomb's law. That electric field must be equal to 1 over 4 pi epsilon naught q by r square into r cap, where r cap is the unit vector joining ds and q. The flux through this area ds, small amount of flux through the ds, is given by E dot ds, and that is equal to magnitude of electric field E ds cos theta. Now no vectors here, cos theta. Or I will substitute this one in E. I will get 1 over 4 pi epsilon naught, 1 over 4 pi epsilon naught q by, let me write like this, q by 4 pi epsilon naught, and ds, that I will write like this, ds and r square cos theta, ds cos theta. Okay, final expression was small flux d pi through the ds is q by 4 pi epsilon naught ds cos theta by r square. Why I have written like this? There is a particular reason. That is, this ds cos theta is the area perpendicular to that electric vector, and this area divided by r square is nothing but solid angle subtended by this ds area at point O. Therefore, this is nothing but q divided by 4 pi epsilon naught, and that is small solid angle d omega. Small flux d pi is equal to q by 4 pi epsilon naught into small d omega. Now total outward flux through the whole surface, we will calculate. Total flux phi is equal to, we have to do the surface integration over a closed surface of, final expression was like this, q divided by 4 pi epsilon naught into d omega, solid angle d omega. Since q is a constant and all these are constants, let me take outside the integral, and this is over the surface. Q divided by 4 pi epsilon naught, 4 pi epsilon naught of integral s d omega. Now carefully interpret this integral. This is nothing but total solid angle subtended by whole surface at that point O. That solid angle is nothing but 4 pi steradians. 4 pi steradians. Therefore, I will substitute that one, q divided by 4 pi epsilon naught into 4 pi, or 4 pi got cancelled, q by epsilon naught. Therefore, total flux outward through the surface is equal to that single charge q divided by epsilon naught. One step 2, when all the charges are inside the closed surface and no outer charges, but there are many charges. We know that if there are many charges inside the surface S, Gauss law holds good for individual charge because of superposition principle. This we will show in the next slide. Total flux through the surface is equal to surface integral total electric field when all the charges are present into surface element vector ds. Now, even when many charges are present, superposition principle holds good. Therefore, I can write that electric field as E1, that is due to first charge, plus E2, that is due to second charge. Similarly, so on En charge dotted with ds vector. And you know that this is a linear operation. That means I can separately write like this. E1 dotted with ds vector plus integral E2 dotted with ds vector. These are all surface integrals, remember, plus so on En dotted with ds vector. Y is equal to, first one is nothing but integral of E1 dot ds, that is nothing but, let me write first, E1 dot ds surface integral. This is nothing but flux due to charge q1 alone pi 1 plus similarly it will be pi 2 plus so on flux due to nth charge pi n. And since for individual charge Gauss law holds good, that already we have proved in step 1, therefore this is nothing but q1 divided by epsilon naught plus q2 divided by epsilon naught so on qn divided by epsilon naught. Therefore, I can write this as summation of qi, I varies from 1 to n divided by epsilon naught, or if this I can write it as net charge q enclosed, since they lie inside the surface I will write enclosed divided by epsilon naught, q enclosed divided by epsilon naught. Therefore total flux is equal to total charge enclosed divided by epsilon naught when many charges are present inside. Now let us obtain differential form of Gauss law. Consider a closed surface S which bounds a volume tau. Inside the surface, consider a small volume element d tau. Now charge contained in this volume element is given by rho d tau, where rho is the volume charge density at this point. Now if you want to calculate total charge inside this volume or inside that surface, then I have to do the volume integration. Therefore, this is the total charge contained inside the surface. Now, from Gauss law in integral form, surface integral over that surface S E dot ds is equal to total charge contained, that is tau rho d tau by epsilon naught. Remember this equation. Now using Gauss divergence theorem, I can convert that surface integral into volume integral. Therefore, E dot ds over the surface S is equal to volume integral of divergence E d tau. Now this is equal to volume integral tau total charge contained, that is rho d tau integral by epsilon naught. You cannot write here also tau is there, here also tau is there, d tau. Therefore, rho is equal to divergence E. Although conclusion is correct, we should not do that. That has similar to this one, sine by cos. You cannot divide S here. That's meaningless. Similarly, you should not directly write this one equal to this one. You bring that integral to here, then tau divergence of E minus rho by epsilon naught is equal into tau d tau is equal to 0. Now this happens for any volume and any kind of closed surface. This can happen only when this integrand should be 0. If it happens for only one surface, then that may be the case. May not be the case. D tau integrand may not be 0. But since it happens for all the surfaces, closed surfaces and any volume, therefore I must have this integrand. Integrand I will show in yellow color, underline. Divergence of E must be 0. Sorry, not 0, minus rho by epsilon naught is equal to 0, or we will get the differential form. Divergence of E is equal to rho by epsilon naught. Divergence of E is equal to rho by epsilon naught. You remember this one. Since the derivative has come, this is the differential form. Now let us note some properties of conductors when conductors are placed inside a electric field. Conductors have free charges to flow within the material. Free charges are there in the material which can flow in the presence of electric field. The electric field is 0 inside a conductor. Otherwise, we won't have any electrostatic situation. Okay. This can be shown. Electric field inside must be 0. Any net charge must reside on the surface, because if charges are inside, then electric field is present, means they will be drifted. After coming here, they cannot leave the material, therefore they will stay here. In the presence of electric field, charges will stay on the surface, any net charge. That means if you add extra 1 coulomb, they must stay on the surface only, not in the interior. The tangential component of the electric field is 0 on the surface of a conductor. Tangential component means, suppose if you come here, if there is an electric field here, then free charges present here, they will move. Once again, you won't have any electrostatic situation. Therefore, any electric field present must be in the normal direction. Normal direction. If you come here, let me say this is the some irregular shaped surface, and if you come here, electric field must be in the normal direction, not any component along the tangent direction. E is normal to the surface just outside the conductor. E should be in the normal direction. Now we will prove something called Coulomb's theorem. You should differentiate this from Coulomb's law. Here we will prove that whenever you have a conductor, just outside the conductor, what is the field? Electric field, you ask. This is a charged conductor, therefore charges remain on the surface only charges, and inside there should not be any charges. Here it is the solid body of the conductor and this is the surface. Just in front of the surface, what is the electric field? It should be normal, we know, but what is the magnitude? That we will prove here, and it is called Coulomb's theorem. It is nothing but given by electric field is equal to sigma divided by epsilon naught in case of conductor. In case of dielectric, answer will be different, but now we will prove it for conductor. The electric field at any point near a charged conductor, near, not very far away. If you are taking here, okay, very far away means no. If you are not satisfied with this distance also, then you just come here like that. The surface charge density is sigma divided by epsilon naught is the electric field, and it should be in the normal direction at that point. We will prove this theorem. Prove. Consider a surface S of a charged conductor. S of a charged conductor. Okay. Let sigma be the surface charge density. At any point there will be surface charge density. Since inside this volume no charges can reside, we will define only the surface charge density. If you consider a surface here, that will have a certain amount of charge. Charge per unit surface is called charge density, surface charge density. Consider 2 points P and Q. One outside, P is outside the conductor and other inside the surface. You imagine this is the solid part of the conductor. Therefore, Q is inside the conducting material. Construct a Gaussian surface. It is a certain kind of shape which we are going to use and apply the Gauss law in convenient way. Gaussian surface is in the form of cylinder of cross-sectional area A. It's nothing but a something like pipe shaped. Area is A and it is cylindrical. Now consider field inside the conductor is 0 inside the conductor, hence the flux through the surface at Q is 0. Flux through the surface at this point is 0 because inside the conductor electric field is 0. Therefore E dot ds from this part of the surface is 0. Field E is always normal to the charged conductor. Always normal to the charged conductor and hence parallel to the curved surface. At this point, if you consider electric field, it must be in this direction, it must be in this direction, or any other curved part parallel in the parallel direction electric field. Therefore, from the curved surface, flux will be 0. Therefore, curved surface also does not contribute to flux. The only contribution now comes from this part of the cylinder, that is plane surface at the point P. Here E will be almost constant over the any point on this plane surface. Therefore, this integral which gives the flux E dot ds, that can be, since it is normal, I can just replace by magnitudes E into ds, and E is almost constant, therefore I can take it out. E of integral ds, By adding or integrating ds, I will get total area at this point A. E into A. Net charge enclosed by the Gaussian surface is sigma into A. Why? Now charge will be only in this part, surface only, and it covers the area A, and at that point if the surface density is, charge density is sigma, then sigma A is the total charge contained. From Gauss law, EA, that is the total flux, EA is equal to 1 by epsilon naught times the charge contained within the closed surface, and that is sigma A. And doing some massaging to this equation, I will get E is equal to sigma by epsilon naught. Observe that it is double compared to just a plain sheet of the containing the surface charge density sigma. If it is not a conductor, then it will be like this. Both sides electric field will be there. But now since it is a conductor, the solid body, within the solid body, electric field will be zero. Only on one outward surface only electric field will be there. Now let us derive this relation between surface charge density and the force on the unit surface of the conductor. Whenever a net charge is distributed on the conductor, charges will reside on the surface, outer surface only. Therefore, any small portion of the surface feels repulsion from the charges that are present on the rest of the surface. I have to calculate that repulsive force. How to do that? That will be done in this way. Let this be the small portion of the conducting surface. What is the force on that surface due to the rest of the portion? To obtain that expression, we will consider this one. Let sigma be the surface charge density on a conductor placed in vacuum. Consider small area ds. Sigma is the charge density at this point where ds is present. Small area ds on the surface as shown in figure. P is point just outside. P is the point just outside, not on the surface. The electric field E at P, net electric field at P is the sum of the two fields E1 and E2. What is E1? E1 is the electric field due to charges on the area ds. Charges on the area ds area itself. Okay, that also contributes to electric field. And what is E2? E2 is the electric field due to rest of the charges which are present in the rest part of the, that also contributes electric field at point P. Now we have to calculate E1 and E2. At point P, E1 and E2 are in the same direction. Electric field due to this portion is in this direction, and rest is also is in this direction, E2. Therefore, total field at P is E is equal to E1 plus E2 and that is given by, do you know what is that? Yes, by Coulomb's theorem. It is sigma by epsilon naught, which we have proved earlier. Now let me write what I have written, that electric field at point P is E1 at P, E1 at P plus E2 at P. This let us have in our mind. Consider a point Q just inside the conductor. Just inside the conductor, let us consider another point Q. At Q, E1 and E2 are in opposite direction. That is, due to the charges present on the ds, electric field at this point is in this direction, and E2, that is the field due to rest of the surface charges, and that will be in this direction at point Q, at Q. This is at Q. Now the field at Q is E1 minus E2, and what it should be? Since Q lies inside the conductor, that should be 0. Therefore, net electric field at Q is 0. Therefore, E1 is equal to E2, but they are in opposite direction. Therefore, if you consider just magnitude, E1 is equal to E2. This happens at Q. Be careful, this happens at Q. I am not telling that this happens at P also, although it is case. Now, at Q, E1 is equal to E2. E1 is equal to E2. Now, you know that E1 at P is equal to E1 at Q. They are just in the opposite directions, but magnitude wise they are same. Therefore, E1 and E2, E1 at point P and at point Q, they are same. Therefore, I can safely say now at point P also E1 and E2 are same. And E1 plus E2 at point P is given by E. Therefore, E1 is equal to E2 is equal to E by 2, and that you know sigma by epsilon naught E is equal to, therefore sigma by epsilon 2 epsilon naught is equal to our friend E2. Now you observe that at surface I don't know what is the field due to rest of the charges on ds. I don't know electric field at this point, but now at any point P, that E2 is Q, that E2 is in this direction, and at any point P just outside the conducting surface also in that direction, and magnitudes are same. Therefore, by assuming continuity, we can say even at this point electric field due to rest of the charges is E2. Now we know what is the field at this point due to rest of the charges, that is E2, and we know the charge also, charge present on this disk, that is ds is equal to sigma ds, or charge on the surface ds is equal to sigma ds, and you know that electric force is charge into field at that point, and in this case charge on the disk is ds into sigma, and force is electric field is E2. Therefore, net force on the charge is given by this expression sigma ds into E2, or substituting the values of E2, I have force on the conductor is this one. Conducting surface is this one. And if I want that per unit area, then mechanical force experienced by unit area on the charged surface is this one. Okay, per unit area, force per unit area, that is this one, sigma square by 2 epsilon naught, and let me denote it by symbol P, and P has a name, that is electrostatic pressure. Therefore, whenever we have a conducting surface, that conducting surface is at under certain kind of electrical pressure, okay, that outward electrical pressure. Therefore, when you throw on certain metal too much charge, then charges on that small portion feels repulsion from other charges on the rest of the area. Therefore, if that repulsion is too strong, charges may leave this surface, and this phenomenon is observed. It is called field emission. Therefore, classically, if we want to explain field emission, we have to use the concept of electrostatic pressure. I will stop here. Let us do some problems in the next video.